Alrighty guys, so today I'm going to do a review on the Mathews Conquest 4, the bow that I shoot. So, to start with, the Conquest 4 is one of the oldest bows on the market at the moment, being designed in 2002, which makes it a 12-year-old design. But what Mathews said is they've got this bow perfect, so they're not going to change it. So you're not going to see a Mathews Conquest 5 next year. Next year when they release this bow again, it'll be the Conquest 4. So this bow hasn't changed since 2002. This is a 2014 model bow, but is still exactly the same as the 2002 model bow. Now that being said, the Conquest 4 has won the most prize money out of all the other bows ever made, and I think that has to do with something being around, that it's been around for 12 years more than being the perfect bow. So let's a little bit of specs on them. It is a 40 and 5/8 axle to axle length with a 7-inch brace height. So that's pretty much the specs on the bow. They come in 10-pound limbs, so the limbs go from 50 to 60, 40 to 50, and so on. And they can be wound, the limb bolt turns are 1 turn for every 2.5 pounds out of both sides. So if you take 4 turns out of this limb bolt, 4 turns out of this limb bolt, you'll be at its weakest or smallest draw poundage you can get. So with all Mathews solo cams, it's 4 turns on the limb bolt max. That's the max you can wind it out and wind it in. So moving on, this is the Max Cam. So they come in 2 different cam varieties, the Max Cam and the Mini Cam. Let's start with the Max Cam. So the Max Cam comes with 1 inch of adjustment. So that means you can, if I can get it to focus in, it has 3 different pegs to change your draw length, and they're on both sides. 1, 2, 3. And what that means is you have 1/2 inch adjustment ranges. So this is a 29-inch Max Cam, which means I can take it down to 28.5 and to 28. Now a little bit about the solo cams that nobody really tells you is that the cams run better on the smallest draw length. So on peg number 3, the cam will actually perform better than it would on the hole number 1. It just has something to do with a bit of the timing as it releases. The cam will rotate a little bit better on the shortest peg. So if you really want to get serious, I'd recommend, if you have a 29-inch draw length, buy a 30-inch cam and run it on the smallest peg to get your 29-inch draw length, and that'll give you a better cam rotation. So that's a little bit on the Max Cams. This is a 80% let off. They say the Max Cams come in 65 too, but I've never seen a Max Cam in 65% let off. So this is 80% let off, and being 80% makes it more for a hunter than for a target archer, because they need that long time to sit there at full draw. So let's have a look how the draw cycle goes. So it's not too hard here. It starts to peak right here. There's the peak, and then drops off into the big valley. It has a massive valley. I can barely even use anything to hold it here. So then when I let it off, it really wants to jump out of your hand too, because of that high let off. So that high let off, the higher the let off, the more release can affect the arrow flight, because it has less poundage at full draw. So here, when I am at full draw, now there's only 10 pounds holding that string, or 15 pounds holding that string straight. So when I let it go, if there's any slight variation, that string will get a big wobble before it hits the edge of the valley, and takes off. So that is the Max Cam. Now we have the Minimax Cam. And as you can see, the Minimax is a little bit smaller. So the Minimax Cam only has 1/2 inch adjustment on it. And what the Minimax Cam is actually for is for a person with a smaller draw length. So they made it so if you've got a tiny draw length, you can put on a Minimax Cam and you'll still get a good performance out of a small poundage and small draw length bow. So with the Minimax Cams, these come in 65% let off, which makes them more target orientated. And they'll give you an extra 5 FPS arrow speed. So 5 feet per second extra with the Minimax Cam, but here's where it all gets a bit loopy. If you put a Minimax Cam on your bow, you will lose 5 pounds. So this being a 60-pound bow, now that it has the Minimax on it, is only a 55-pound bow. So to get that extra 5 pounds, extra 5 feet of speed, you actually need to go up on your limbs as well. So if you want to really run the Minimax at 60, you have to get a 70-pound limb and half turn it off down to 60 to get that 60 pounds with the Minimax draw. So this is 60 pounds. Of course, in the Minimax it's running 55 pounds. But how I like to run my bow is with a little bit of tiller. So what I do is I take one turn off the top limb bolt. The bottom limb bolt's solid. I don't know if you can see, but there's no gap there. And there's a bit of a gap there. So I like to run it with tiller. So I have, well, like I said, one turn off the top and solid on the bottom. So that takes off some poundage as well. So this is a 60-pound bow, 55 with the Minimax. One turn off takes it down to 52 pounds, which is pretty dodgy, and which is one thing that I do not like about the Mathews Minimax Cams. But let's get into the draw cycle, and this is what makes them a lot better. Let's go back to the Max Cam. At full draw, there's a little bit of play in that back wall. That back wall is not solid. It's got a little bit of push to it. So now if we let that down, go to the Minimax Cam, that's solid. Well, a lot solider anyway. I wouldn't say it's as solid as a limb stop, but it's definitely a lot solider than the Max Cam. So that is an advantage of running the Minimax Cam, is that it has a harder back wall. So let's have a little bit of the draw cycle as well. So here it's quite easy. So that first bit's quite easy, and then we'll start to stack, starts to stack. That's where it's peaking, and it peaks real hard. Then slowly lets off into the valley. So it's not a big, you don't fall into the valley real easy. It's a real smooth valley. And then a small, it's a really smooth coming off the valley as well, which makes it a lot better for target. So as you let down, it kind of just creeps over that valley, whereas rather in the Max Cam, you kind of fall out of that valley real hard. So it goes, nothing, oh, and then pulls out of your hand. Whereas the Minimax is a bit more smoother and doesn't give you that big jerk out of the hand. So I'm here, and it's just slowly creeps over that valley. And it's a lot easier to let down too, with the 65% let off. So guys, that is the Mathews Conquest 4 review. I think I've gone over everything. I like to run it with a backstop too. And I like to have, they seem to like the arrow a tiny bit above the burger hole. But that's up to you. It's up to you how you run it. That's how I run my bow. Alright guys, so make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit all the other buttons, and I'll see you again tomorrow for another video.